Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I'm your host, folks. Again, today, more members, actually about 5 different members, announced their scheduled appointments with the actual bankers that will either exchange their currency and or manage and grow their wealth. Members that have trust accounts set up, brokerage accounts set up for where once they exchange their currency, the monies will move into that brokerage account for it to be managed by the wealth management firm, not in the bank system, but in investments to grow and multiply their wealth. More members with luncheons, dinners, private functions that they've been invited to by their wealth managers. Yes, when you hear wealth manager, this is the bankers who will be responsible for either exchanging or growing, and a combination, could be a combination of the two, when it comes to your wealth. Folks, this could be you. Click the link at the top of the description. There are 8 steps that we share that you can follow. And I highly advise you to, if you were to follow these 8 steps, to take the steps, come to the room, ask questions, ask guidance, and then also make sure if you follow the steps and you establish a meeting with a banker, don't wait until the day before your meeting to all of a sudden ask for help. Seek our help and our guidance up front in the beginning and throughout the process. Because if you do it when you have a meeting the next day or the day after, well, we have to kind of go back to see from whence you came. Your process to get to this point, to have this meeting, to be able to properly help you. That's all. Respect our time. Respect your time. You'll have a beautiful time when you go into your meetings. Folks, today, it's Vietnam that Goldilocks is sharing very relevant information related to the audit. See, folks, if you have noticed, Goldilocks shares what is relevant in the moment that day. It could be Vietnam today. It could be Iraq tomorrow. It could be gold the next day. It could be a combination of all the above the same day. It can be digital assets. It could be a specific cryptocurrency like XRP. It could be anything. Goldilocks shares what is relevant in the moment. You will not hear from Goldilocks something just to make you feel good or something that sounds good. Because in the reality, It is good when it's the facts with the actual sources provided by Goldilocks every single day. So if you are hearing, if it seems like you're hearing a lot about Vietnam now by Goldilocks, well, that is because in the moment, at the moment, it's obvious that something is brewing. And Goldilocks is just sharing it. Well, Goldilocks is sharing today that expansion in trade, specifically an increase in exports, can lead to currency appreciation. Now let's jump right into it. What Goldilocks is sharing is that this occurs because greater demand for a country's products translates to increased demand for that country's currency. In this case, Vietnam. Conversely, increased imports can lead to currency depreciation as more Vietnamese dong is exchanged for foreign currencies to pay for those imports. See, there's a balance. Let's call it a trade balance. See, a country with a trade surplus, which means they export exceeds more than their imports. They export more than they import. That typically sees its currency appreciate in value. And right now, Vietnam is exporting heavily and has been heavily more than they import. So you got to remember, Vietnam has had restrictions on countries importing into Vietnam. But Vietnam heavily export to all countries around the world. See, Vietnam has all of the indicators to appreciate the Vietnamese dong, with the exception of them controlling the value of the Vietnamese dong. It is market forces that will lead to the appreciation of the Vietnamese dong in any currency, that is, but we're speaking of Vietnam. Vietnam has checked mostly all of the boxes to justify a higher exchange rate. Now, Vietnam is currently expanding the demand for the Vietnamese dong in several countries right now. At some point during this expansion, they'll need to increase the strength of the Vietnamese dong. This is when we will see Goldilocks is sharing that appreciation in the value of the dong to come into play. See, what they have done, they've passed certain laws and regulations that opens Vietnam for other countries to import into their country very heavily. Goldilocks is sharing the most recent updates showing that Vietnam is doing even more. And the report, see, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Vietnam has seen a significant surge in foreign direct investment. Listen to these numbers. Reaching its highest level since 2009. In the first half of 2025, registered FDI, which stands for foreign direct investment, exceeded $21 billion in the first half of 2025. Almost a 30+% increase from the same time last year. This growth is fueled by political and macroeconomic stability, a young and educated workforce, multiple free trade agreements, and government support. These factors have made Vietnam an attractive destination for foreign investors, particularly those in manufacturing and processing. Think of global manufacturing companies. They are foreign investors, and now they are flocking to Vietnam because of the new opportunities with Vietnam removing the restrictions to allow foreign investors to come into Vietnam to benefit from the Vietnamese economy. Goldilocks is sharing that in conclusion, there's new projects, international cooperation, and record high increase, 21 billion in foreign investors now flocking to Vietnam. The foreign direct investment surge in Vietnam reflects a positive trajectory for their economic development. Vietnam's proactive approach to attracting foreign investment, coupled with Vietnam's inherent advantages, positions them as a key player in the global economy, according to the U.S. Department of State. Vietnam's potential upgrade of their stock market from a classified frontier market to an emerging market status, it could have a positive and heavy impact on the value of the Vietnamese dong. The FTSE Russell has a review in September to most likely upgrade Vietnam from a frontier to an emerging market status. The MSCI, which is another international exchange and stock company, is expected to do the same to review and upgrade Vietnam after 2026. However, in September, the review by the FTSE Russell is huge. See, and there's already the indicators by international experts that expect Vietnam to be approved for the FTSE. If you don't know what the FTSE Russell is, I would highly suggest you take a look at it. Look it up. Google it. FTSE Russell. So just imagine Vietnam. When I say this, think of the dong. Think of international investors from all over the world who invest in various stocks, who never had the opportunity to invest in Vietnam's stock market. There was never regulations to do so, no security for funds to do so by investing. All of those barriers have been removed by Vietnam. And now investors from all over the world who see the value in Vietnam can now access Vietnam's stock market, manufacturing market, semiconductor market, agricultural market, electronics market, all total complete market access electronically, consisting of billions and billions of dollars daily to be transacted. Now in the Vietnamese dawn, when all of this transpires. The upgrade that's expected by the FTSE Russell in September, the September review, that is, would take Vietnam into another stratosphere as far as market access. The floodgates will open. Again, I must specify, do not expect the next day after it's announced for a revaluation. It doesn't work that way. Although we already see the movement in the currency rates, the volatility, the up and the down fluctuations. The movement is expected. This is why an exit strategy and a relationship, structured relationships with your wealth managers, is so key and important. Those relationships and the structures will allow you to exchange at whatever exit strategy that you have, at whatever threshold that you designate to exchange at, whatever number that you'll be comfortable with when the rates begin to move. This is where your plans with your wealth managers come into play. Goldilocks is finalizing by saying this in conclusion. Vietnam has the numbers. Remember, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Vietnam has the numbers to move into an emerging market. Goldilocks is saying is that what we need to keep our eyes on will be how the Central Bank of Vietnam manages their float to match the numbers coming in through trade from these global connections. See, the Central Bank of Vietnam will manage the float, meaning the rate. It won't be a flip of the switch. No economy can handle that. This will be a gradual floating rate in time. Again, the rates are already moving. Of course, not enough to where we can go to the bank and exchange, although some banks are asking people to come in now to exchange. Well, that's because they want to buy low and sell high. That's business. That's business. But understand and know, like Goldilocks is sharing, Vietnam clearly, and we see the numbers. If you were to click into several of the links that Goldilocks has shared, the statistics and the numbers are there. If you know where to look, if you take the time. Men lie, women lie, gurus lie, numbers don't. All right, beautiful folks, be well. We love you. Ciao, ciao.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RV GCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RV GCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RV GCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.